Hello, today we will be using UITextfieldDelegate to format the content that we're displaying in TextFields. We'll be creating two types. One will be to display a formatted credit card number by separating the 4 digits with a space. We will also be creating a date text field that will display a useful hint for the user where they can see what is the format of the date that's expected, and as they fill it in, we will keep the hint so they know what to fill next. This is the view where we are going to start another tab in our components app. And here is where we will have two text fields. So one for the card number, a credit card number text field, and one for entering a date. There is a view in SwiftUI called TextField, which we could use for this, but it's not as powerful as UITextField, which is the one that we're going to use. So let's create a UI view representable for that one. Okay, here we create the UI text field. Here's a text field. Let's add a border. And since this is going to be a credit card number, let's also make sure that the user can only enter numbers. That's it for now. Let's check our scene. Let's add it here. As you can see, this happens with UITextField and UI representable. The field is taking up all of the available space. That has an easy fix. We just set the content hugging priority to default high for vertical. And let's also do an improvement here. We'll assume that we have a binding text variable. This is what we'll be changing and communicating back to the SwiftUI view. Much better. The text field is not expanding to fill with the entire screen. So there goes an easy fix. And that's it for our UI view representable actually. Most of the work now is going to go into a UITextFieldsDelegate, which will be the coordinator of this text field. So what is a coordinator for those of you not familiar with UI view representable? Besides the two functions that you are obligated to implement, which are make UI view and update UI view, we can also make a coordinator, which can be a class, which in turn can be used for the text field delegate. So here's where we will set our coordinator. We do not instantiate the coordinator directly here or the delegate because it cannot be preserved. This is a struct. Instead, we will use it here. It has to be an NS object because of UITextFieldsDelegate restrictions. So we implement this method, and then in the make or in update UI view, we get the coordinator from the context. For now, just to use this in action, let's implement the change. Text field did change, will change? No, should change characters here. And let's modify this binding variable with the replacement string. Start typing, and we can see that the card number here. Here I can, in the preview I can do this because I'm using the keyboard, but normally the user will only be able to input numbers. And let's start with this. Here's where we will be formatting the card number that we will be showing in the text field. We will add here the spaces that are expected for a credit card number. We're going to assume that the credit card number is 16 digits. We're not going to use any of the other special formats like American Express. So the replacement string is this, which is backspace, an empty string. And our card number is not empty. Then we're removing. Oh no, actually it cannot be the end index. This is the index before the end index. If it is not a backspace, we will also check for if we already have 16 digits. We will not let the user enter more. And we need to change this return true. Now, why? We will see in a minute. And since we are formatting the string, well, we need to add it here, right? Here. Oh, we're missing modifying the text, but see what happened? When I added the first two, let's see how we get 2 1s, then 2 2s, and so on for the next number that I'm typing. That happens because I'm returning true. This is what's telling the text field to take the input and actually replace it. Since we're doing this programmatically here and then eventually formatting, we don't need this. We're gonna let ourselves handle that, and the system just doesn't update the text field on its own. Now for the formatting here, we want to format this card number into something else. We're gonna do that in a separate class. So what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over these numbers, and if we find one that, and each time we get to a multiple of 4, we add a space. We're going to start from 1 and go here just because we want the checking the spaces to be easier with multiple of 4s. So if the, oh well, first we need to get the character. Index -1. So get the character there, so we can concatenate it easily, cast it to a string, and if the index is a multiple of 4, we'll apply modulo. If it is 0, what we're going to do is the formatted string, we will add the character and a space. If not, we will just add the character. And I just realized we can actually do this easier. We do this, we add the character, and only if it is a multiple of 4, we add the space. Yep, let's try this out. Oh, and we will also update our string. Let's start typing. 1, oh. Here we have the error. We're not using the correct upper bound. Yes, and if we need to validate for the empty case. Now, one more thing is missing besides considering the empty case at the end. And let's start deleting. See how after every time we add a space, the cursor is getting displayed. So here, we actually wanted a little bit more neat. We want our cursor to be always at the right of the last number. That can be easily fixed using another property of TextField, which is not text, it's selected range. And we know that our texts are going to be either digits or spaces after the formatting. We'll use last index where, and it's the last index of the character that's different than a space. So if we can find it, then we will find the position of that in the text field. Text field, notice here, when it says selected text range is a UI text range, and that one works with positions. Here, text range from and to. Now I have the index. What I need is an int. So the distance would be the formatted number, and the distance from the beginning of the string to the index of the last digit. Then we get the position. So from the beginning of the document to the distance. And since we're working with index, we are going one more. If we do get that position, because it's an optional, then we go to that position. It's from and to the same position because we're just moving the cursor, we're not selecting any part of the text. Let's see this working. And let's jump here. Now, we did add notice that we're in the 4th digit, so a new space should be here. But we move this. Let's add another number that we have a space. Now let's backtrack. Notice how the cursor is always nearby the other digit. And there we have our credit card number text field. Now let's move on to the next one, which will be a date text field, where we are going to write a date and it's going to be printed out in a specific format with different colors for the part of the date that we have already written and the one that's missing. Just like with the credit card number text field, we in our UIB representable we need another coordinator so we can assign that to the TextFieldsDelegate, and here's where we will manipulate our string. Now let's first start by adding a placeholder. So the format of the date that we want the user to enter will be first the month, then the day, and then the year. And what we want them is to follow this, so we will add a placeholder as a guide. And let's return true just so we can see our issue here, because placeholder is not going to be enough. Oh, and let's make this even more exciting. We are going to add a binding date. The text field is going to transform the date for us. Here in our scene, to check that what we're doing is valid, we already have a formatter here that will transform the date for us. So yes, here we have our placeholder. Let's select here. The cursor is at the beginning. Good. This is the behavior that we're expecting. And the user knows that they need to enter first the month, the day, and the year. Once they start, the placeholder disappears because that's how it works with UITextField. So we're going to go a little bit deeper with more advanced regarding attributed strings, and just like we did with our credit card text field, moving the cursor position. So in a similar way, we're going to check for backspace first. And since we are modifying ourselves the text field, let's return false. Again, we're gonna do something else here, formatting, but not only formatting, we are going to also use the attributed text. So we're not using text, we're using this attributed text, which receive an attributed string, which we could construct here, but we're gonna use Swift's new attributed string. Just like we did with the credit card, we're gonna have a maximum amount. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So that's the maximum amount of characters we're gonna allow. It has to be less than 8. So let's first start with the beginning of the date. As soon as the user is adding this, we're gonna be checking for different scenarios. When we have the month, we need to add this slash, then this one. Let's do the count here. So we first modify the string and then we format. Let's do that in a different function. So we're going to call field date, the part of the date that the user has already entered. And we'll return another string. Field date will be format field date with date string. So this would be really simple. The only thing we need to check is if the date is between, if the length of the date is between 2 and 3, it means that we need to insert just 1 slash, and if it is 4 and above, we need to insert 2 slashes. For any other scenario, we break. Let's add this part to the text field. With text. So let's check our formatting. Good. Before formatting the other part, so remember we want this to be easy to the user. You notice, by the way, that we don't have to remove the slashes. That's also good. Let's also format the date so we can display it here. Let's check our formatter. There we have it. Now let's play a little bit with attributed string. We want the color of our date, the formatted date, to change to green if we have a valid date. For now, let's just add the field date. And instead of text field, it's attributed text. It expects an NS attributed string. Luckily, NS attributed string has an initializer that receives an attributed string. And for now, we will change the entire color, foreground color of our attributed string from black or green if we have a valid date. So if date is different than nil, we choose green. Now here, this is a SwiftUI color. Careful with this. SwiftUI colors don't work that great inside of any attributed string, so make sure you cast it to a color, UI color. Green. If it is not valid, then it's just black. Going back here to our view, let's start typing. And we have it. Now the only part that's missing is adding the help to the user, which is represented right now only in the placeholder. So now we'll have the field date plus the remaining placeholder. This gives you a substring. Let's transform it into a string. And notice that now we cannot add the foreground color just to the entire string. We only want to color the part that it's being filled by the user. And we can do that with range. So range of field. We can do that from attributed string. We ask for the range of the field date. So we do get a range. And here we can again use subscript to just color that range. And we'll do something similar for the placeholder. So the range of placeholder. And we will use the remaining placeholder. And that one we will color with light gray. Let's check it out. Now, we do have the cursor that's missing, but notice how the other part of the placeholder remains there. The user knows that the next thing to enter is a day and then the year. Everything looks good. The only thing that we're missing now is that the cursor needs to stay with the field date. And we can use part of what we already have in our credit card number text field. The distance is the number of characters in our field date. Notice how the cursor is following our date. Now this is not a valid date since it has day 33. Let's modify it of 2021 and our credit card number. And that was all. This episode was a good reminder that SwiftUI is not here to replace UIKit. Instead, they can work together. Why would we create another text field in SwiftUI if we can reuse all of the powerful capabilities that UITextField has to offer? All that you have to do is create a UIView representable and use it to embed a UITextField inside of it. The coordinator that UIView representable offers allows you to conform to any delegate that UIKit requires. That was all for today. Bye.